At dinner, Mom boasted about my sister's 4-bedroom mansion, so I finally spoke. I make more than both of them combined. Silence fell. My family has always measured success by what you can show. The car, the house, the ring, the vacation photos. If you can't point at it and make someone jealous, it doesn't count. My sister Whitney figured that out early. She married a man named Derek who works in pharmaceutical sales. He makes good money. They bought a 4-bedroom house in a gated community 2 years ago. It has a pool. It has a 3-car garage. Whitney posts it constantly. My parents worship her for it. I'm the other daughter, the one who doesn't post, the one who drives a used Subaru and lives in a 2-bedroom condo near downtown. I don't wear jewelry. I don't carry designer bags. I wear jeans to family dinners, and my mom once told me I could at least try to look like I care. I'm a data engineer. I've worked in tech for 9 years. I started at $58,000. I now make $247,000 base, with stock options that vested last year worth another $190,000. I don't talk about it, not because I'm humble, because every time I've tried to share something about my career, my family glazes over. They don't understand what I do. They don't ask. Whitney once said at Thanksgiving that she didn't even know what a data engineer was, and everyone laughed like it was a joke. Derek said something like, "So you fix computers?" I said no. Nobody followed up. My parents have never once asked me how much I make. They've never asked about a promotion. They've never asked what my company does, but they can tell you the square footage of Whitney's house, the brand of her countertops, and the exact month she got her kitchen remodeled. Last Friday was my mom's birthday dinner. My parents, Whitney, Derek, me, restaurant downtown. Mom was in a good mood. Halfway through dinner, she started talking about Whitney's house. She does this every time. She looked at me and said, "Did you know Whitney and Derek are adding a sunroom? It's going to be gorgeous." I said, "That sounds nice." She kept going. 4 bedrooms, a pool, and now a sunroom. I just don't know how you two do it. She was looking at Whitney like she built the house with her bare hands. Whitney smiled. Derek put his arm around her. Then Mom looked at me. "You know, you could learn a thing or two from your sister." "About what?" "About building something. About having something to show for yourself. You're 34, and you live in that little condo with no ring and no plan." Whitney leaned in. "Mom, leave her alone." But she said it the way she always does. Soft, protective, like I was something fragile that needed to be handled. I put my fork down. I said, "Mom, do you know what I do for a living?" She blinked. "You do something with computers." I said, "I'm a data engineer. I design infrastructure for one of the largest cloud platforms in the country. I've been promoted 3 times in 4 years. Last year, I made more than Whitney and Derek combined." The table went quiet. Whitney's smile dropped. Derek leaned back in his chair. Mom stared at me. "That's not possible." I said, "It is, and it's been true for 3 years." I didn't say it to brag. I said it because she told me I had nothing to show for myself, and I wanted her to know that the only reason she thinks that is because she never once looked past the surface. Whitney said, "Why didn't you ever say anything?" I said I did, multiple times. Nobody listened. You asked Derek what a data engineer was, and he said I fixed computers, and everyone laughed and moved on. Nobody corrected him. Nobody asked me to explain, so I stopped trying. Derek cleared his throat. "I didn't mean anything by that." I said, "I know. That's the problem. Nobody ever means anything by it. It just adds up." Mom sat there for a while. Then she said, "Well, why don't you buy a bigger house then?" I almost laughed. That was her takeaway. Not, "I'm sorry," not, "I should have paid attention." But why don't you buy something I can brag about? I said, because I don't need a bigger house. I don't need a pool or a sunroom or a 3-car garage. I have savings, investments, and a retirement plan that's funded through my 50s. I built something. You just can't put it on a Christmas card. Whitney looked down at her plate. Derek excused himself early. Mom changed the subject to dessert. Some people only see the surface. I stopped expecting them to look deeper a long time ago. My brother-in-law said I was lucky to marry into their family because I come from a poor background. So I posted screenshots of him flirting with me before my wedding in the family group chat. Now his fiancée left him after finding photos of me on his phone. I married Kevin 3 years ago. His family has money. Not rich, but comfortable. Big house, nice cars, vacations every summer. I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment with my mom and 3 siblings. We had enough but nothing extra. I worked since I was 15, put myself through school, got a decent job in accounting. I wasn't ashamed of where I came from, not once. But Kevin's older brother Nick made sure I never forgot it. It started the first time I came to a family dinner. His mom asked where I grew up, and before I could finish, Nick laughed and said, "So Kevin's slumming it." Everyone kind of chuckled. Kevin told him to cut it out. Nick shrugged and said he was joking. He wasn't. Over the next 3 years, Nick dropped comments constantly. At Thanksgiving, he looked at my plate and said, "Bet you've never had food like this growing up, huh?" At Christmas, he handed me a gift card and whispered, "Since I know you actually need it." When Kevin and I bought our first house, Nick told the whole family, "Must be nice to finally live somewhere with a yard. Huge upgrade from the projects." I didn't grow up in the projects. He just didn't care enough to know the difference. Kevin defended me every time, but Nick always played it off. "I'm just messing around. She knows I'm kidding. Why is everyone so sensitive?" His parents never stepped in, not once. His mom would change the subject. His dad would pour another drink. They treated Nick's comments like background noise, like it was just how he was, like I should be used to it by now. Here's the part nobody in that family knew. Before I started dating Kevin, Nick had tried to get with me first. We worked at the same company for about 6 months. He sent me texts constantly, told me I was beautiful, asked me to dinner, sent me messages late at night that weren't exactly subtle. I turned him down every single time because something about him felt off. Then I met Kevin through a friend, not through Nick, and we hit it off. When Nick found out his younger brother was dating the girl who rejected him, something shifted. That's when the poor jokes started. That's when he decided I wasn't good enough for the family. He couldn't say, "She turned me down and it bothers me." So instead he said, "She's beneath us." I never told Kevin about the texts. I didn't want to cause problems between them. I just took the hits and kept quiet. Then came the engagement party for Nick and his fiancée Allie. Sweet girl. Way too good for him. 60 people in their backyard. Kevin and I were at a table with Allie's parents when Nick grabbed the microphone for a toast. He thanked everyone for coming, talked about how great Allie was, then looked right at me and said, "Kevin, you should take notes. This is what it looks like when someone marries at their level. Not everyone in this family got so lucky." A few people laughed. Allie looked uncomfortable. Kevin stood up, but I grabbed his hand and pulled him back down. Nick kept going. "I'm just saying, some people win the lottery when they marry up. Allie and I are equals." He winked at me. Something in me just went calm. Not angry. Calm. I pulled out my phone, opened a folder I hadn't looked at in 3 years, and started uploading. 12 screenshots. Texts from Nick telling me I was the most gorgeous woman he'd ever seen. Late night messages asking me to come over. One where he literally typed, "Kevin doesn't have to know." Another one saying, "You're wasting yourself. I'm the one with ambition." I dropped all 12 into the family group chat with one line. Since Nick wants to talk about levels, here's him begging the poor girl to date him before Kevin did. The phones started buzzing, one by one. Nick's mom looked down. His dad looked down. Allie's parents looked down. Allie looked down. phone. I watched every face change in real time. Nick's smile disappeared so fast it was like someone unplugged him. He started stammering. That's old. That's taken out of context. She's lying. Allie stood up, phone in hand, scrolling through every single message. She didn't say a word. She just read. Then she turned to Nick. You told me you barely knew her before Kevin. Nick tried to touch her arm. She pulled away. Don't. Kevin looked at me. I expected him to be upset. He just said, how long have you had? Those? 3 years? Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want to ruin your relationship with your brother. He did that himself tonight. Allie left the party without finishing her drink. 2 days later, she went through Nick's phone and found saved photos of me from my social media. Screenshots he'd taken of my profile pictures going back years. She called Kevin and told him everything. Then she called off the engagement. Nick tried to spin it. Nobody bought it. He spent 3 years calling me the poor girl. Turns out the poor girl was the one he couldn't get over.